serving this great country for 22 years, and this was the active time. My inactive time now, I have the pleasure now of getting to travel this country, and I speak somewhere from 5 to 7 times a week. And what I attempt to do in speaking is maybe to change the way or change the life of one or two people, one at a time. And this is take one of these young people and change their way of life, change their way of thinking. Let's face it, the future of our great country is our youth. That is my feeling, and you know, I feel like I'm a super privileged. I'm 81 and feel like I'm 18. Also, I don't think we in the military give enough credit to our spouses. You know, they made one, he got one item right when he introduced me here tonight. He said, I've been married to Mary for 59 years. She disagrees with that. She says that's her age. Now, like I say, I had the privilege of serving in Vietnam. I served in Vietnam with the 5th Special Forces Group, and I always like to tell a little story. The first time I went into the country of Vietnam was in February of 1963. I went in with the 5th Special Forces Group, and they elected at that time period to send me in civilian clothing. And this is one little error that I feel like the military made at that time frame. They sent me down to Saigon and said, you know, you may need some, I was a young sergeant, said, you may need some international driver's license. Well, they sent me down and photographed me and they issued me some international driver's license. And then they assigned me so far up in the mountains with the mountain yard people. The only thing that we could drive was one of the old mountain yard's chief's pony. Now, why I like to tell this story is a few trips, 9 years later, a few more trips in Vietnam, 18 body wounds later, this picture showing up, well, on a North Vietnamese poster. Now, this was my Saigon International Driver's License picture when I was a little younger. This showing up with wanted dead or alive. So people today ask me, said, would you like to go back to Vietnam? I tell them no. I said, I think this may still be good. Now I'd like to tell you a little something that makes me such a humbling individual. And number one is that I was recommended, I was caught in a little battle of the Ashau Valley in 1966. And this little battle was at a Special Forces camp. And I'd like to tell a story that leads up to this. And I left the Fort Bennie, Georgia in 1961 to join Special Forces. And I'll tell you what, that old training was so tough and intensive that I had too much pride to quit, so I made it through. Then they decided that I was going to be in the operations and intelligence work in Special Forces, and spent some time in the operational detachments. And then my second trip in Vietnam, Sgt.Major came after me and said, Bennie, said, I need you to be my C-team intelligence sergeant. I said, no, I can handle that. I said, that's what I've been working. You know, they had real beds and they ate real food. And I didn't have to get too dirty and all that. I said, I can handle that. I've been looking for that for years. Well, cleared the post, and I went to this, reported to the Sgt.Major a couple of days later, and he said, "Benny, I have bad news for you." Said, "Old Sergeant Earl Petty out in A102, that's out the Ashall camp, said he was hit medevac. I'm gonna have to send you out there." You know, I got to be one of them rimps just by fault. Now I was on the campsite there in the Ashall Valley, I guess 120, 130 days, something like that, before we were attacked. And I think every day there, the North Vietnamese soldiers were throwing their weapons at me, and thankfully I didn't get hit too hard with them. But we had a couple of Chuhois that come in. These were the individuals that decided they didn't want to fight anymore and wanted to give up. So they come in, and through the interrogation, they determined that we were going to be attacked. But we didn't know we were going to be attacked with a full division with additional artillery. And they had this set where the battle attack would happen in bad weather. Keeping in mind that the Ashall Valley there, the only support that we had was by air. The North Vietnamese owned the roads, they owned the hillside, they owned the country, and our sole way was, our sole support was through air. And now I'll tell a little story on myself like this, and then we'll get back to the other. But you'll enjoy, somebody will enjoy this. You know, they always dropped our food and supplies by helicopter, or if the weather was real bad, the fixed wing would drop our livestock, hogs, pigs, cattle, and so forth. They'd crate them up and drop them in with parachutes to us when it's real bad weather. Well, I'll tell you what, I happened to know at one time that they run out of parachutes. Well, we needed food anyway, and I directed higher headquarters to send us a resupply, and they dropped those cattle right out of the aircraft without parachutes. Did I get in trouble with it? Now, see, I had a hard time understanding why. What difference does it make? Said whether the livestock were killed on a parachute jump, or whether they, as soon as they hit the ground, they were butchered for meat. And, you know, it was hard for me to leave. But somewhere along, that didn't work too well with higher headquarters. You know, we had a little battle, and one of the things that I get to talk with today that happened with us, we had about 400 indigenous troops in the camp with us that we were supposed to be advising. But what happened at that time frame was that one of the companies decided at the early stages of the battle that they were going to fight with the North Vietnamese. Well, I see this happening today with the men and women that I talk to downrange. You don't know who is your friends, or maybe your friends today and your enemy tonight. That's basically what we were seeing, and my only advice that I can tell them at this time is keep the security tight. Now, this one company, of course, by changing sides and fighting with the enemy, left part of our camp open. All right, so therefore it become the battle not only worked with the troops assaulting us, but it become mass assault. And what would happen is that they would fire a large amount of artillery, mortar, and then there would be a mass assault of the combat troops, the infantry troops. And they North Vietnamese soldiers would always begin chanting before the mass assault. And I got to watching a couple of times on the mass assaults, and one of the North Vietnamese commanders was firing off a Green Star cluster to let to give the signal for the infantry to attack. Well, I said, you know, I might find one of those, and I dug around in my firing position and come up with an old Green Star cluster. The next time they started firing in heavy artillery and mortar fire, I popped off a Green Star. Well, the North Vietnamese artillery helped us out for about a company there. This worked great, and we had to run into a couple of other little situations, and it was just not my time. And one was, we had a total of 17 Army Special Forces soldiers in the camp, and unfortunately, all 17 were wounded, most of us multiple wounds, and 5 paid the ultimate price. But one thing that I like to talk about is that one of the Special Forces soldiers was wounded. We had an aircraft come in from Thailand, a helicopter come in from Thailand, broke into the bad weather, they shot the helicopter down. Eventually they sent another in to pick up the crew, and I was fortunate enough to put this Special Forces sergeant on the aircraft to get him medevaced. Looking around, I seen 2 or 3 of our indigenous personnel on the aircraft. There's nothing wrong with it. They just wanted to trip out or ride out. Now, in encountering this, one of them locked and loaded on me. Well, he made a big mistake. He had the rifle on me, and Sergeant Bradford, John Bradford, who was wounded, had the rifle on us, and he made the mistake and stood up in the door of the helicopter, and the North Vietnamese soldier shot him and killed him. So, again, it wasn't my day to go at that time frame. Now, then they eventually overrun us with numbers, and they decided that they were going to eliminate me with hand grenades. So we started throwing a few hand grenades in me. Now keep in mind, the old Chi-Com grenades got a handle on it, you know. And first few that they throw in, they'd either be short or long, and then they got one into my firing position, and one of the indigenous with me tried to play soccer with it. And he lost a leg, and I got a little shrapnel out of it. But I was really fortunate. A little later, one come in, and I was fortunate enough to catch it and send it right back where it come from. Got a little air burst, and you know they lost interest in hand grenade fighting. Well, we was really fortunate there, you know. We had real good support, and eventually the Air Force attempted to get us a resupply. So they sent us in a resupply of ammunition and water, and they had to drop it from a little too high altitude, and when they dropped it, it went right in the minefield. Well, I had to go in the minefield to get it, and I went in to get the ammunition, and one of the indigenous soldiers that was with me got hit, and he didn't weigh about 100 pounds, so I put him on the back, carried him back into the compound, and on the way back in, the North Vietnamese soldiers was having fun with me. They just shot the soldier on my back, wounded me a little through him. But like I said, it was not my day that day. So we decided we needed some ammunition and water, and went back into the minefield, and got some water. Again, the North Vietnamese soldiers having fun, and had 2 of these old GI cans, one in each hand, full of water. So I thought of really going. So instead of shooting me, they just shot holes in the water can. But we got in with just barely enough. I got back with just barely enough water to get us a drink, and we were going in. Then our headquarters eventually, after 38 hours of battle, they decided, said, hey, let's close this camp. Said, we're going to attempt a helicopter rescue for you. And they put 18 helicopters in there. Only 8 made it to 10 of them were shot down. And I was myself and the executive officer of this 8 detachment. We went back into camp to get one of the wounded soldiers, Special Forces soldiers that was on a stretcher, severely wounded, and when we come out, we didn't have a ride. So we had to go in the jungle, and going into the jungle, this was, we found out that we were better equipped for the jungle. Our training had made us better equipped for the jungle than even the North Vietnamese soldiers were. And this, so the jungle became an asset for us. I was fortunate enough at that time frame to have a little old, what they call an HT1 radio. It was a little FM radio. If everything was right, you could almost talk across this room with it. Well, mine wasn't quite right. It had the antenna shot off of it, so I decided in that jungle that I'd try to communicate, and I used my rifle, stood in some water, using myself, and communicated with an aircraft. They sent a helicopter in to pick us up. They shot the helicopter down. So we had to go again. And this is the night that the North Vietnamese soldiers just about had us now. They just about run. We'd been in a 38-hour battle and 48 hours of escape and evasion. And they just about run us down, and they had us surrounded in this triple canopy jungle. And we started hearing the noise. And a little while we heard, not only the noise, but started seeing an eye. And here was a tiger that had stalked us, that had smelled the blood on us, and so forth. And these North Vietnamese soldiers were more afraid of the tiger than they were us. They backed off, and we were gone again. So now, if you see any 400-pound cats, that's my tiger. This is, and today now, I was recommended there in 1966 for the Medal of Honor, and things did not happen. I was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, and I proudly wore that second highest award for 48 years. And I received information that one day from the Department of Army stating that there would be a high government official call me at a certain time on a certain day. Well, I really anticipated it was someone that was working with the POW recovery, MIA POW recovery system out of there. Well, it's a kind of surprised Mary and I, and what surprised it was, this is the President of the United States on the phone. The President called me and said, Bennie, you are being awarded the Medal of Honor. Said, it cannot, said my staff will come on and coordinate this with you, and a short time later they did come on, and the most difficult part was this. This was in June, and they put a gag order on me. Said, this cannot be out until the official notification comes from the White House. Well, it didn't bother me bad, but it sure did bother a wife and a daughter. So, but I'll tell you what, it's a super humbling experience, and what makes it so humbling is nothing more than the numbers involved. From World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Somalia, Panama, Iraq, 78 living Medal of Honor recipients, and to be one of those is super, super humbling. That time period is over 30 million that served this great country. And with that in mind, I try to encourage patriotism throughout the world. And thankfully, I get to talk with all ages of group. The largest crowd I've had has been 85,000, and the smallest has been about 6-person pre-kindergarten. And I enjoyed the pre-kindergarten the best. Now with the military, I feel like that we overlook a few things. And I was fortunate enough, they said at one time in the military to have 2 records of all the Army. One we were super proud of, and one we were not so proud of. One said we had the highest re-enlistment rate in the Army. The other one said we had the highest divorce rate. So, like I said, I'm proud of one, and one's not. It takes a family to support his career soldiers. And with that in mind, I would like for you to think about our men and women that are downrange today that's taking care of this great country. If you think about it, we have less than 1% of our population that is protecting our way of life. That 1%, I think, is probably the best trained, the best equipped, the best educated military ever. I'm not sure that 1% would be enough to take care of multiple engagements throughout the world. And that is what I foresee in the future. Now that's just my personal beliefs and not that of the Department of Defense. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. And I did say I was going to talk about three hours, but I'm going to just go with my short one tonight, just go 2 hours. So with that in mind, may God bless you, and may God bless America.
Thank you, Sgt.Major. That's a hard act to follow.